Coming into this year, I think it's safe to say that the race to replace retiring Republican Senator Rob Portman of Ohio is not considered to be particularly competitive. The ground appears to be shifting. Right now, the polling average shows Democrat Tim Ryan neck and neck with Republican J.D. Vance, at times even ahead. Larry Sabato's Crystal Ball, one of the top political forecasting outfits that monitors every race in the country, just moved its midterm rating for Ohio's Senate race from likely Republican to just lean Republican. With just 75 days until the November election, there's still a lot that can happen in this race. Joining me now is the Democrat running to be the next senator from Ohio, Congressman Tim Ryan. Congressman, it's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So here's the case against you that your opponent, J.D. Vance, uses. Basically, Tim Ryan and the Democratic Party are captured by the coastal globalist elites who look down on everyday Americans and want to let, open border immigrants forcibly vaccinate your children. What is your response to this? The basic, I mean, that's not that far from the line, but the general idea, like here, that like the Republicans are parties of real Americans, real Ohioans, real working people. Democrats are out of touch coastal elitists, and you, Tim Ryan, are one of them. What do you say to that?
Well, I've got a long record of fighting for Ohioans. And as you know, Chris, whether it's issues of trade where I've taken on Democrats or taken on Democratic leadership, or even on a couple of occasions agreed with Trump on renegotiating NAFTA or taking on China, I've always been grounded in Ohio, period, end of story. Growing up around Youngstown, Ohio, I'm obligated to fight for those people who have been left behind. That's in stark contrast to J.D. Vance, who's been funded by a billionaire from Silicon Valley. He basically has two donors. He has Peter Thiel, who gave him $15 million, and Mitch McConnell, who's now giving him $30 million. We have 250,000 different donors. Average donation is under $100. So if you just knew that, you'd say, who's for the average working person and who's for the billionaires? And it's quite clear. And I got a long record, and that frustrates J.D. Vance and the Republicans, because my record has always been about fighting like hell for Ohio and cutting workers in on the deal.
Yeah, you talked about NAFTA and offshoring, and I know that this is an issue I've covered for years. I wrote a profile of Sherrod Brown back in 2006. He was a voice like yours, early fighting against the Democratic, at that time, consensus on NAFTA, on outshoring. There has been an unbelievable revolution, I have to say, in the thinking on that in Washington, in Democratic politics. I mean, the jobs reshored per year since 2010, we're seeing this year is going to set a record for that. You've got a new Intel plant that's going to be opening up, a $20 billion Ohio plant's happening. Like, do people in Ohio see this, feel this, that there's a corner being turned on this really important issue?
Yeah, we're really starting to feel it. I remember when I first got to Congress, it was me and Sherrod Brown, and at that point, Congressman Ted Strickland, who became Governor Ted Strickland, and others. We were kind of like looked at as like, the world had passed us by. And we kept saying, right, no, we have to bring these jobs back. We have to rebuild the middle class. We have to invest into these communities. And when you look at the infrastructure bill that we've done, that's going to allow broadband and clean water and good infrastructure in places like Ohio. Then the CHIPS Act, which is going to take that Intel investment from $20 billion to $100 billion just north of Columbus, Ohio. The average wage there, Chris, $135,000 a year in that plant. Those are the kind of middle-class jobs we've been fighting for, whether you're white or black or brown or gay or straight. If you're out there busting your rear end, that's the kind of job we want you to have. We're building electric trucks, electric cars, and electric tractors and batteries in Youngstown, Ohio again, solar panels in Toledo. So really, I want Ohio to be the arsenal of energy. And again, there's a really stark contrast to J.D. Vance here, because he has said that if you're a 55-year-old factory worker, you might as well just come to grips with the fact that you're never going to have a good job again. And I say, screw you. Like, we're not giving up on the industrial Midwest. We're not giving up on Ohio. And if that's what you learned in California, then, you keep that stuff there. We want to rebuild this state. We want to rebuild the country and rebuild the great American middle class.
Ohio's a state that was one of the first states, I think maybe the first state in the union, in which abortion became illegal and unlawful and criminalized almost immediately after the Dobbs decision in June. Of course, that awful story about a 10-year-old girl who was forced to flee the state to secure an abortion in neighboring Indiana. Are you a supporter of national legislation to secure something like Roe v. Wade and secure abortion rights should you be elected to the Senate?
Oh, of course, and I voted for it. I voted for the Women's Health Protection Act, and would vote for it in the Senate, would get rid of the filibuster if need be to make sure we pass that and codify that, and will absolutely. I think this is the largest governmental overreach in the history of our lifetime. If we're a country built on freedom and individual liberty, personal liberty, this is a complete violation. This is the most un-American thing that I've seen in my lifetime. And again, J.D. Vance says that there should be no exceptions. He thinks that 10-year-old girl who's been raped should have to go to another state. He thinks she should actually have the rapist baby, called rape inconvenient. And so, Chris, on all of these issues, this is the main crux of what's going on in Ohio. There is a very stark contrast to J.D. Vance, the extremist, and Tim Ryan, who's fighting for the exhausted majority, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, on how we have to come together as Americans to take on those extremists. And ask everybody at home if they want to help out, go to timforoh.com and chip in. Like I said, we got 250,000 donors. We're building a low dollar funding machine here that's going to put the billionaires and Mitch McConnell, we're going to put them to bed, and we're going to get this country back to where it needs to be.